didn't want to be put in the Spanish room by accident. All right, so introduction about We Act. Since 1988, we have worked to build healthy communities by ensuring that people of color and or low-income residents participate meaningfully in the creation of sound and fair environmental, health, and protection policies and practices.
I'll let people in the room.
Okay. So I just wanted to offer the agenda today. We'll have our introduction to We Act, and then we're going to go over city and state policy from 2020, federal policy from 2020. We will have a comedian, Chuck Burks, and then we will hear from the planning committee, and then communication team, and then city and state policy for 2021, federal policy for 2021. We're going to review Out of Gas, and it'll be an overview of a campaign that we're working on, healthy homes, voter engagement, and then we'll have closing remarks. So I just wanted to do some general Zoom housekeeping. So don't overpopulate the chat box, and remember to stay on mute unless you're asked to speak. And there's also the option raise hand. Oh, sorry, raise your hand, which is on the toolbar below. And then if you're on the phone, you can put *6 to mute and unmute, and then *9 to raise your hand. So yeah, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the little microphone. You press mute. So if you're on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, click on the mute icon so that we don't hear multiple noise. And then if you're calling through mobile, just remember to put *6. And then, so yes, so there's speaker view, and then there's gallery view. So speaker view, you just see one person, the main person speaking, and then gallery view is where you can see everyone that's on the meeting. And then there, to ask questions during Q&A, you can raise your hand, you click on participants, and then you tap on the blue hand to raise your hand, and then the facilitator will call on you and your mic will be unmuted. And then we'll have polls. This is just a way for us to hear from multiple people at one time. It provides a way for us to focus on the environmental justice issues that are most important to you as residents. And then if you're on your computer or logged in through Zoom, you'll be able to participate in the poll. And then if you're dialing in through the phone, our organizing team will follow up on your preference via phone after the meeting. And then community agreements. Be present and participate. Only one person speaking at a time. So everyone, if you're not speaking, mute. Speak from the I perspective. And then remember to land your plane. So if you're talking, remember to make your clear points and then finish off, before you kind of ramble, and then respect other points of view. And then just remember, this is a judgment-free zone. And I believe that's it. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Charles.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? All right, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, we hear you clearly.
I just want to...
Yeah, hi, Charles.
Good morning, good morning. So, thank you very much, Nicole, for that, the early
Yes, I can hear.
And I just wanted to move forward in understanding that, welcome everybody for our annual year-end meeting. It actually has been pushed back to December. We usually have it in November, but we're definitely happy to have it. So I just want to remind you guys that we do have to meet our goals of 2020 to make sure that everyone who is participating pays your membership dues. The link will be in the chat. If you don't have them, that's okay. But if you do have them available, we wish that if you can take the time out and make sure that you do that before the year is out. Okay. So upcoming next is our policy, city and state person. who is Sono. And Sono is going to do a presentation on the city and state policy. Sono, are you there?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Happy to be here with you all this morning. I am going to just do a quick kind of overview of what we have all accomplished in 2020, both at the city and the state. And my coworker, Karine, will then present about what we've been doing nationally. And we just really want to tell you guys how much work has been done, how many successes that we've had. And it's all thanks to you all that have participated with us and helped move all of this really great work forward. So let me pull up my presentation. All right, so the city and the state in 2020, overarchingly, the pandemic kind of took control of all of the work that was going on and put a lot of things on hold that our organization and lots of other organizations, and I'm sure many of you kind of had planned for the year. And we really had to kind of backtrack and rethink and re-strategize and, try to make sure that we're meeting the needs that are there now that people have in the moment when the pandemic has hit and when it's, everyone's having a hard time. So the city kind of changed its budget around, the state changed its budget around, and all the things that we maybe had planned to do kind of had to shift a little bit. And despite all of that, despite all of the kind of the difficulties that we've been through and that we have just been through particularly, we really did a lot. So at the city, this picture that I decided to put is one of our favorite pictures from this year. It's Peggy and Cecil attended the kind of ribbon cutting of the first electric MTA bus to come to Upper Manhattan. It came to Harlem, and that was a really exciting moment because we want to turn buses electric. That's something we're working on. So this happened, I think, around February or March. So these are just some of the things we've done in the city. I didn't put everything down because the page was going to be too long, but I'm just going to go down this list. So first, we made demands of Nycha. We worked with Nycha residents to create a policy agenda that my coworker Taylor is leading up, Charles is working on, everyone has been working on. If there's anyone that's done, let's just make sure everyone's muted, please. So if you worked on the policy agenda for Nycha, if you've been a part of the Nycha work, maybe put some pluses in the chat, clap your hands, put up some reactions. We'd love to have you involved. The next thing we did, we started a voter engagement team. So we hired someone named Christopher, and he's going to lead up making sure that we get people engaged. We had big elections last year, well, still this year, and we got people to come out and make sure they voted for whoever they wanted to vote for. And we're going to continue that work. And particularly, we're going to try to make sure that the things that we want to see done in our community, we hold candidates accountable to that. And we vote for people that truly are going to commit to doing what we think is best for our communities. The next thing is we work with a coalition of organizations to create a plan for after the crisis, during the crisis, where should the stimulus money go to kind of revamp our city because of such high unemployment, when the city puts in a lot of money into the economy to help with businesses closing and people losing their jobs and lack of food security and housing security, where should that money go? And a lot of our organizations came together and said it should go to green jobs, it should go to renewable energy, it should go to building up our public transportation system. It should go towards making sure people are safe and healthy in their homes. And that's something that we advocated for really heavily, and we created a whole plan about that for the city. The next thing is, I'm sure a lot of you remember we worked really hard in extreme heat this past year. Maybe put some pluses in the chat if you helped or did anything around extreme heat this summer, this fall. I know a lot of you were involved. We advocated for 2 big bills in the city to be passed so that we make sure that the city is preparing for the summer heat as much as they say they should. They are and as much as we think that they should be doing. And we're continually working on that to get more bills passed and make sure the city makes sure that, you know, people have the cooling spaces that they need when it gets really hot. And to do that, we created a whole policy agenda on extreme heat, which you can find on our website. The next thing we did was we attended lots of rallies and lobbied for the building emissions reduction law, the big law that passed in 2019. We wanted to add to it. We wanted to expand the buildings that have to reduce their emissions 80% by 2050. We did that. The mayor signed that into law only about 3 weeks ago. So that was really exciting. We expanded this major law that was a big deal in New York City and truly a one-of-a-kind law in the country. So that was really exciting. I know many of you on this phone call testified about these bills and expanding these bills. So maybe put some pluses if you testified, if you attended a rally. The next was we advised on the building emissions law, the rollout of it. So this law passed in 2019. Peggy is on a big advisory committee to kind of tell the city how to do it in an equitable way, how to make sure that it's not only the wealthiest people that are getting the benefits of reducing their air pollution and having low utility bills, that our communities get some of that as well. The next is we continue to rally and testify for renewable Rikers. We had one of our solar workers particularly testify about why renewable Rikers, putting solar panels on Rikers Island when the penal colony closes, is important for making sure that our communities are healthy in the future. Next, we got passed out free ACs this summer. Well, we didn't do it. We helped get people connected to the program to pass out free ACs. We rallied the state to give people discounted electricity bills. I'm sure some of you noticed that your bill had maybe about $34 less over the summer for a couple months. Maybe put some pluses in the chat if you got an AC this summer, if you got some discount on your bill, if that was exciting for you. We continue to pass laws about lead poisoning, make sure people's homes get tested for lead. It's always an important issue. And then last, we joined a coalition to turn school buses electric. And that's something that we're working on continually. How can we electrify school buses so that people standing next to buses don't breathe in their dirty fuel? That's the diesel buses now, that our children that get on the buses aren't breathing dirty air, that it's not really loud and kind of nasty. And we want those to be electric. So those are some of the things we did in the city. Maybe anyone could put in the chat if any of these were particularly exciting to you. If you're excited that we kind of move forward on this, let us know. And then next in the state, so this is just all the policy we did in New York State completely. The first thing is that we welcomed Yuva Vosper, our new policy and advocacy coordinator, and she's here on this call. Maybe she can wave to everyone, but she is going to help us push all of our state policy forward. So a lot of you that like to volunteer and go to Albany and do lobbying work with us in New York State, you'll be working with Yuva. So we were excited to welcome her this year. We passed the Child Safe Products Act, and this was a huge win. This is something that Cecil has been working on for a very, very, very long time. This was a really important law for him to make sure that products that are used for children, that children use, are not covered in chemicals, aren't full of nasty chemicals that hurt their health, hurt their ability to develop in a way that is healthy. So this one was really excited. Remember the day that this passed, Cecil was jumping up and down through the whole office screaming. We were all very excited. So this was a big win for us in the state. We petitioned when the COVID crisis hit, we were worried that we were going to lose money for a lot of the environmental work that the state does. And particularly there's a carve out for environmental justice work. So we petitioned with a bunch of coalitions, over 170 organizations were part of this, saying, do not pull money for the special fund that New York State has to make sure that there's money for a lot of the work that the state does for environmental justice communities. And we're still working on that now. We advised on the CLCPA, which a lot of you know. Maybe put some pluses if you've been a part of the CLCPA work. That's been a lot of different organizations and people have been a part of this. But this is the big law in New York State that's going to reduce greenhouse gases 85% by 2050, reduce our pollution, reduce our use of fossil fuels ideally, And this, again, is a one-of-a-kind bill. And we are on a lot of different committees. Kareen is on it, I'm on it, Peggy's on it. Lots of us are on different committees to advise how we make sure this bill happens, this law happens in a way that benefits our communities, that we, bring the benefits back to our communities. Next, we passed some laws to prohibit PFAS in food packaging. PFAS is a set of chemicals that kind of disrupt your hormone system, that can lead to, it hurts your kidneys, it hurts your immune system. It's kind of it's a nasty chemical that is used a lot in, it's kind of like non-sticky type chemical that people use. It's also used in firefighting foam, though that is now becoming banned. And we pass a law to prohibit that in food packaging, because that can get off into the food that you consume, and then you kind of consume some of these chemicals, and it's something we don't think that people should have to deal with. We participated in a lawsuit to ban plastic bags. That was supposed to happen in March because of the pandemic. They put it on hold, and we participated with Earth Justice to tell the state, don't put this on hold, keep this going. We continue to do our lead work at the state level to make sure that no child is allowed to have high blood lead levels, and that should be law. There should be a lower threshold for that. And then last, something we're continuing to do is we're advising these two agencies. They're both kind of working on energy and environment in the state to make sure that we put in programs in New York State around renewable energy and energy efficiency, and hooking up homes to better like cooling and heating technology, to making sure that we get our energy from solar and wind. And that's kind of an ongoing conversation happening with New York State. So that was my very quick presentation of all the things we've done. And here's a picture of our committee with some of you all and some of our other kind of partners that were part of our heat work and planning all of the heat campaign we've been doing. And we couldn't do it without you all, and that's why I wanted you all to put in the chat any kind of thing that you participated in this year that you really liked with WeAct, anything that you feel like, was a highlight to you. I know a lot of it was virtual this year, but still we did so many amazing things about being in person. So put it in the chat, let us know what you really liked. And we couldn't have done any of that without you. So thank you all. And I will pass it off to Kareen, or unless we're taking a question, either way.
I was waiting to just allow for questions for Sonal. I'll start. Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Kareen Taylor. I'm Director of Federal Legislative Affairs for WeAct's Federal Policy Office. Really excited to be with you all virtually here from Washington, D.C. I'm going to share what we've accomplished this year, and I'll do my best to get through it in 10 minutes because we accomplished a lot, I think. Well, first off, in terms of our staff, we've grown to an office of 4. Really excited to have Bailey on board as our National Coalition Manager, and Caitlin Buchanan is our Federal Policy Associate. And interesting fact, we've never all been in the same place because both Caitlin and Bailey started after COVID happened. But we've been working, I think, very well virtually, of course, throughout the course of the year. And Dana, who started as our communications manager, has been promoted to acting director as we prepare for what we believe will be a very intense 2021. And she's just got a really keen mind for strategy, and we're really excited to have her in that role. This is just a quick outline of some of the things we've done this year, and I'll have slides that go along with them. So we started off this year with the Trump administration's attempt to roll back the National Environmental Policy Act, which is a very critical rule for the environment in general, but for environmental justice communities, particularly as it creates an opportunity for organizations like WeAct and other communities to be involved in federal projects that might impact communities' health. And we mobilized about 50 organizations across the country to come to Washington, D.C. in February to testify at a hearing in front of the Center for Environmental Quality. This is Vernice, our co-founder and current board member, speaking. And this is also an image of just a new and interesting way that folks have been expressing and protesting. We projected our organization's logos on the website. I'm not sure where these two lines just came from. Okay, all right. And around that time as well, when we brought all these EJ Forum members to DC for the NEPA hearings, we also had an opportunity to meet and talk with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Chairman of the Select Committee on the Climate Crisis, Kathy Castor. And we just really had a really good talk with her, not only about NEPA, but our concerns around environmental justice policies throughout the country. It was a really great opportunity for EJ Forum members to engage with the speaker. And this is, we also participated in a hearing that day on NEPA that was coordinated through a coalition we were a part of that Cecil was able to attend. And of course, Cecil plays and played a very pivotal role in our policy formation. So his presence is one that will continue to, feel, now that we're moving past with him leaving us this year. Beyond NEPA, we did a lot of policy advocacy around some key environmental justice legislation. And the Environmental Justice for All Act was introduced in February as well. And since 2018, we've been a part of a task force that's been forming that bill. And this is a key piece of legislation because it would codify the executive order on environmental justice and also strengthen NEPA and a whole host of other very critical policies that we typically depend on at the federal level to advance environmental justice work. We also worked with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris's office around the Climate Equity Act. And as part of our Beauty Inside Out work that happens in New York City and New York State, we've been working with Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky around the Safe Cosmetics and Personal Care Act. And so these are just images from things that we did. This was this Beauty Inside Out image here was our first COVID event. We had attended to do a briefing on the Hill, bringing Sonal down, this is Lubna, bringing Lubna down to talk about environmental health issues as it relates to personal care products and a whole host of other women who do work in this space, but we had to adjust very quickly to doing things in this new age because of the COVID pandemic. And to that effect, we saw COVID-19 as a really great opportunity to highlight why there was such high rates of people of color impacted by the pandemic, particularly as we know with Harlem, with New York having really bad air pollution and how that relates to folks having high asthma rates with children, with other folks. And so our first conversation that we kind of grounded in connecting environmental justice and air quality issues to COVID was for Asthma Month. And we were really happy to have our Congresswoman Adriana Espaillat speak, as well as Michael Johnson, who is a great partner of WEACT and the EJ Forum in South Bronx Unite, as well as actually a childhood friend of mine who lives in New York and is a doctor. And so that was one of our first activities highlighting the correlation between environmental justice issues and COVID-19. We also submitted letters throughout the period, one in particular with an EJ Forum member, Omega Wilson. He's incredibly concerned about the impacts of medical waste and where that will end up. And typically it ends up in communities of color. So we worked with his organization, WERA, to submit a letter, as well as another letter in August, just around making sure that stimulus support around COVID also included funds for the low-income home energy system program, Heap, that many of our members and folks in New York benefit from. We know that this was a very big election year, and doing election and voter engagement is critical to the work that we do. While we had a very progressive House, that allowed us to introduce very important bills without a Senate to also vote. We will have a very difficult time of passing key environmental justice legislation. And we also wanted to support our EJ Forum members throughout the country. And so we were able to partner with a podcast called 1528, and they were doing mobile voter registration in key battleground states, including Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And so we joined forces with them and supported EJ Forum members' Green Door Initiative and East Michigan Environmental Action with 4 days of really intense voter registration. And this was the first time that Bailey and I got to work in person together. So we flew to Detroit, and we did a really great job supporting these organizations. Bailey was his true organizing self, registering people in restaurants. It was really great to see Bailey in action. But we went to there were some folks who were returning from prison and were in a halfway house, and we went to a halfway house to do voter registration. We were in front of grocery stores, we were in front of restaurants, we were in front of like city centers that focused on helping folks get back on their feet. And you know, we like to say that even though we were only there for 4 days and interacted with maybe 200 or so voters, we still had an impact with what was going on. And we know that Michigan in the end was able to turn blue, and there was really high Black voter turnout. So high five virtually to you, Bailey, for helping to help increase voter turnout. And beyond that, Bailey and I have also been doing a letter writing campaign to voters in Georgia, encouraging them to not only participate in the runoff elections, but request their absentee ballots. So just trying to find a way within COVID to do things safely to encourage folks to go vote. And I might be able to, I have some ideas on some opportunities to do phone banking that I'll share with Christopher. This would be nonpartisan phone banking to get and encourage folks in Georgia to come out during the runoff election. Again, COVID really limited us, but we really tried our best to take advantage of Zoom and have as many meetings as possible to expand our support for the EJ Forum. We had 3 events, but I'm just focusing on 2 here. One for organizations in Colorado that's considered one of the country's most polluted zip codes. We worked with an organization called Green Latinos, Moms Clean Air Force, and Earth Justice to have a really great talk about environmental justice issues in an area called Commerce City. We also were really privileged to work with Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib on a conversation about Detroit's 48218 zip code, which is one of the most polluted zip codes in the country. And we did that also in coordination with Green Door Initiative and East Michigan Environmental Action. We understand that 2021 and the next incoming Congress will be a really big opportunity to talk about energy. And we've already seen some very problematic energy bills be introduced. And we want to make sure that environmental justice leaders have a really good grasp on nuclear, on carbon capture, on not on carbon capture, but also market-based issues and understanding utilities. And so we had we have a series going now. And if folks want to join us, we have additional ones coming up on the 15th, 17th, and the 21st, just to kind of ground ourselves in the pros and cons of major issues. Like we had one on nuclear that was really interesting. And nuclear, can be very problematic to environmental justice communities, but also many see as a very necessary mix, even though as we go from solar to wind. So these conversations are important. I'm not sure why this line is appearing and what's going on, but
I don't know either.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Okay. Sorry, if there's people on their phones, usually they have like the ability to draw on it, especially if they're doing messages and other stuff. So it could just be a mistake.
Okay. Right. Just this past week, we released our Green Jobs Report, and it really is important to us because it centers not only the work that we're doing in New York with Charles as our lead organizer around our Solar Uptown Now initiative, but we have partners in New Orleans, Deep South Center, and in Michigan, the Green Door Initiative, that are training and helping underemployed communities be able to enter the renewable green sector. And so we really want to talk about the lack of diversity in these fields. And so this Green Job Report is just some of our recommendations on how to do that, important policies and legislation that we see coming that would be really instrumental in providing the necessary funding. One thing we took away from that report was that so many of our programs do vary so much. You know, we provide free OSHA cards, et cetera, or OSHA training, sorry. But the funding that we receive for these programs is just not comparable to the amounts of services that we provide. So it's really critical that the federal government within this next year pass legislation to help us do our work more effectively. So if folks haven't already, please take a look on the WEAC website about our Green Jobs Report. And I'll come back on the second half to just talk about our priorities for 2021. So thank you for allowing me to share. And if there are any questions, I'm open to answering those.
Thank you, Kareem, for sharing that with us. Wonderful job in 2020 on the federal policy. You've done a lot of work and continue to do it. So what I'm going to do right now is that we're going to change gears. We have a special guest who is also a wonderful friend of mine, and also who is going to share a part of himself with us around what he does. Let me get him up. He is a wonderful guy. He lives in New Jersey. He's a brother in Christ with me. We're going to represent Chuck Burks, who's going to give a little show. Chuck, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
All right.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah, Charles is a good friend, but that was the worst introduction I've ever had in my life. So I'm going to reintroduce myself. I am an actor. I'm a writer. I'm a comedian. I've appeared in many different things on the Chris Rock show. I've written for the Dave Chappelle show. I was in the movie Get Rich or Die Trying, and I'm here doing this for you guys because out of love of giving out to the community. You guys are amazing. You're on the forefront of doing the work that needs to be done. I do a lot of Zoom virtual fundraisers and things of that nature. And I'm here to just show little love for y'all. So give yourselves a round of applause for being here for the Saturday morning comedy show. Woo! Whoever thought at 10:30 in the morning we have a comedian? Oh my goodness. But I'm happy to be here, y'all. I want to first say that I realize you guys are doing a lot to reduce the carbon footprint. And I remember, you know, a little while ago, I tried to do that with my family because I owned a home and I was spending a lot of money and it was on wasteful energy. We heated our home by oil. And I used to make an announcement to my family in August on the hottest day. I used to make the winter announcement. I get my whole family, I bring them right into the living room and I sit down. I said, this is the winter announcement. And my kids would say, Daddy, it's still hot. I said, good. Remember this feeling. Because what I told them, I said, listen, this winter, we're going to change up some things. We're going to save some money. I used to spend $987.52 to fill up the oil tank. And I told my family in August, I'm filling it up one time. When it run out, it's spring. I don't care what date it is. It's spring. As soon as it gets to E, and they're like, Daddy, it's cold. I said, no, it's not. Put your hat on. Put your gloves on. Put your boots on. Where are we going? To bed. And shovel the snow off your pillow so y'all can get some sleep. And they thought I was kidding. I told my kids, I'm like, look, here's the deal. I'm gonna get y'all a present for Christmas. They were super excited. Daddy, what you gonna get us? You gonna get us the new Xbox? You gonna get us the PS5? You gonna get us? I'm like, no, I'm not getting that. That's too expensive. What you gonna get us, Daddy? Because they didn't see no presents underneath the Christmas tree. I said, I'm gonna get y'all a present. I'm gonna get y'all a really good present, something you need. What you gonna get us, Daddy? What you gonna get us? I said, listen, this Christmas, what y'all gonna get for Christmas is heat. I'm gonna turn the thermostat up 3 more degrees on Christmas Day, and y'all gonna feel it. They're gonna be like, well, Daddy, we ain't got no presents to open, but I fooled them. See, I wrapped up all the vents. I put little bows on them, so when they wake up early in the morning, I'm like, go ahead, open your presents. You feel that? That's the warmth of Christmas. I'm around the house singing Christmas carols, remixing them. Jingle heat, heat all in the house. Deck the halls with boughs of heat. Ha 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 ha, it's hot in the house. Silent heat, holy heat. I'm telling y'all, I don't know about y'all, but I'm blessed but broke. Anybody blessed but broke? Put a little hand up in your screen. That's when you might not know if you're blessed but broke. That's when you ain't got enough money. You know, but you blessed and you still got enough. That's when you owe somebody so much money you don't even care no more. You ever see somebody you owe money and they actually see you, seeing them, seeing you, spending money? I will walk up and negotiate in my brokenness. I'm like, look, I can't get anything else from you. You can't get nothing back. Let's just call this even. It's so bad when my bill collectors call, they call on conference call. I would pick up the phone. They're like, look, this is AT&T, Verizon Wireless, Visa, and MasterCard. Look, we all want our money. Listen, if you ever have a bill collector call your house, you got to do what I do. You got to be totally honest. Soon as because we all at home, we all see it. And it's a lot of fun if you're totally honest, because we all see the call come across and you see the caller ID says bill collector, pick the phone call up and have some fun. You see it, says bill collector, pick it up, answer the call, be honest. Click, can I speak to Chuck Burks? I'm totally honest. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. You are speaking to him. They get confused because there's a moment of silence because no one ever picks up the collection call. They expecting the voicemail. Then they ask you a question. Well, sir, do you realize you owe us $872.51? I'm like, whoa, sweet Jesus, yes. Then there's another silence because they're looking like, wait a minute, he just admitted to being a person and owing the money. This must be my lucky day. Then they get mad at me and they say, well, sir, what are you planning on doing about it? And I tell them, oh, I'm praying on it. Would you like to pray with me? Do you know the Lord's Prayer? Bow your head, repeat after me. Our Father. You know what? Let's just skip to the most important part of this prayer. Forgive us our debts as we forgive those who have debted against us. And I'm recording this call for legal purposes. That's what I do, you know, because you got to be able to save your money and weather the storm. We've been in this pandemic for quite a long time. And I've been married for 21 years, y'all. 21 years I've been married. And I learned something especially true during this pandemic, that I learned how to listen to my wife. Because when you used to go to work, you didn't have to listen all the time. You got a break. But here's the thing. I looked at the statistics. Do you realize that women use 20,000 words a day? You know how many men use? 7. We only use 7,000 words a day. So that means I have to listen to every single word that my wife uses every day. I'm not even counting how long I've been in quarantine by days. I'm counting by words. I've been in quarantine for 2.3 million words, y'all. And here's the deal. My wife has these conversations that are amazing. She's so smart. She's so smart because here's things that make men afraid. If you have a man in your life and you're in a relationship, this is how you can make your man scared. There are 3 words that scares every man. As soon as his woman, his wife, his girlfriend comes up to him and says, can we talk? Those 3 words put a little fear in that man's heart right there. But here's what strikes more terror. The more terror is the 4 words that they use, and they come up with a whole different attitude. We need to talk. Soon as you hear that, oh, you know you're in trouble. You're like, uh-oh, what did I do? And then here are 6 words that my wife uses that I know are going to just cause me a lot of distress and pain. She will walk up to me because she's so smart. She learns all these things. And she says these 6 words that I know are just not going to work out well for me. She says to me, I was listening to this podcast. Yes, that is usually followed by a description of the podcast. And the information that is in the podcast is for me to hear. But the description of the podcast actually lasts longer than the dang on podcast. I'm listening to the description for 45 minutes. Then guess what? At the end of it, she requires me to go listen to the podcast and do podcast homework. And so what ends up happening is that I go and I want to be the good man. I want to pay attention. I go and listen to the podcast. I come back. I did my podcast homework and I get ready to deliver my answer to her. Guess what she done did? She said, oh, I moved on to another podcast. I'm like, woman, will you please help me, help you to help me so I can live my life in harmony? So listen, give your man a chance to at least do 7 words, work him up to 12 words, work him up to 15 words, but give him a little break every now and then. I am Chuck Burks. I hope y'all have enjoyed me. I got a lot more in me, but I know y'all have a huge meeting. And if you enjoyed me, please send some money to my home. I really need it. I really need that. Charles, thank you for having me. Y'all do some great work. Continued blessings to you and the rest of your family. God bless y'all. Stay safe.
All right, thank you,
Good job, Chuck.
Good job. We appreciate you. You got a lot of hilarious collabs. Everyone enjoyed that. So thank you very much, Chuck. So I'm going to move on in our agenda. The next part of our agenda is the planning committee, where we're going to discuss a couple of things. So I'm going to set that up real quick. And here we go. No, I don't have that set up. So give me 1 second. Everyone should continue to laugh. So the planning committee is in 2021, we were supposed to actually change over to our new planning committee. I mean, 2020, we're supposed to change over to our new planning committee. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to. So the planning committee has stayed on. Moving forward, we have to make a transition to our new planning committee. So we're going to talk about that, and that's what we're going to do right now. So why isn't that my screen? I got to share my screen.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think I have it. There you go. Share. So Juan is going to give us a presentation about the planning committee, and we're going to have some testimonies around what takes place. So Juan, everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes, I see it. I see it.
All right, let me just make sure I put in presentation mode. Okay, Juan, it's your show.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Juan Goris, Chair of the Planning Committee. Thank you for having me this morning, and welcome. So the Planning Committee, as Charles said, is transitioning, and there's going to be an election coming up. And down the line, Charles is going to put in a link in the chat, and then you want to click on that link if you decide you want to be a part of the Planning Committee. Go to the next slide, please. So the purpose of the Planning Committee is to basically work towards the organizational goals of We Act, develop members as leaders, and basically develop communication between the membership and the staff. Let's go forward to the next slide, please. So in the Planning Committee, there are 9 members in the Planning Committee. The qualification for the Planning Committee is basically you have to participate, do phone bank volunteering, attend meeting as you are now, or take some training. And basically the terms of the office is members must serve a 2-year term. Let's go to the next slide, Charles, please. So there are 4 positions in the Planning Committee. There's the chair, the secretary, the officer at large, and the staff liaison. Basically self-explanatory what the job function are. Let's go to the next slide, Charles, please. Within the Planning Committee, we're working now with 3 subcommittees. There's the outreach, the communication, and the policy, and they're all interconnected to move forward the goals of We Act and the membership goals to our community and our partners. Let's go to the next slide, please. And this is the Planning Committee, and there's James right there. And this is some of the people that, although some of the staff and members have, some of them changed, but this is more or less who the Planning Committee is. And coming up is Ron, who's a Planning Committee member, who's gonna say what it is like to be a Planning Committee member. Ron?
Thank you, Ron.
Ron,
can you hear me?
Hold on 1 second, Ron. Yes, Charles?
Yeah, go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
All right, can you hear me? Well,
yes.
Yes, good morning. And thank you, Chuck, the comedian. That was very good. I enjoyed that. And my name is Ron Thomas. Good morning. Happy Hanukkah. Feliz Navidad. Merry Christmas to everybody. Yes, and I've been on the planning committee for 2 years, and I've learned a lot. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of beautiful women, but I behaved myself. But if you have a flair for political stories and political news and government, political science, I think you might enjoy this. And you're going to develop a lot of new skills. You're going to do a lot of concentrated thinking, brainstorming. And they will feed you, though. They will do that. You'll be able to eat all kinds of cookies and pizza, and you'll definitely learn a lot. I have been lobbying up in Albany. I do a lot of lobbying trips. I've been on think tank trips with the EDA, working on solar energy. And I've developed a lot of skills, met a lot of nice people, and I've had a lot of fun, actually. It's been a lot of fun. Since I don't have money to go to college, I can do this. But I want to encourage you to please consider joining the planning committee. If you have any kind of interest in civic affairs, you will enjoy yourself, and you'll meet a lot of politicians and business leaders. And Cecil had me to ask difficult questions of some of the politicians, and sometimes they see me coming and they say, "Oh, here comes that guy. We need to get somebody to beat his behind." But I've enjoyed it, though. So I know you can't see me because I'm in some kind of Wi-Fi twilight zone in my house, but I'm working on that too. But definitely, please consider joining the planning committee. We need your support, we need your expertise, and we need your energy. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron. Nicole, can you make sure you put in the link to register if you want to be a part of the planning committee? Nicole, you hear me? Okay, we'll get that there. The next up is going to be Gwen. Gwen, can you share some of your testimony around being a part of the planning committee?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Happy holidays to everyone. My name is Gwen Black, and I've been a member for several years. And the last 2 years, I have been on the planning committee. And I must say it has been a wonderful experience working with a group of people, learning more about the environment, policy making, advocacy, and other important issues. As a planning committee member, you get the opportunity to present topics that is important to you as well as to the community, whether it's on emergency preparedness, healthy homes, homelessness, and other pertinent issues. I had the opportunity a few meetings ago to address the increase of homelessness in New York City. It was something that I thought we needed to address, and we got a chance to present a meeting around it. And I also had the opportunity, along with Louis Bailey, to work with the emergency preparedness community kiosk a few years ago. It was presented by Olivia Georgia, who's the executive director of CALL, which is City as Living Laboratory. And I engaged in the proposal development. So whatever skills that you have can be utilized on the planning committee. Whatever skills that you want to learn, you can also develop on the planning committee. So it's a good opportunity to use your talents, to increase awareness about environmental justice. But if you have been a long time member, also get involved in the planning process of what is going on behind the scenes for the organization. So I encourage anyone who's interested to sign up, get involved. It's a wonderful experience of just really developing more skills and meeting other members who are part of the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen, for sharing your time and being part of the planning committee. And we will talk to you soon. And thank you for the great work. So, once again, there should be let me make sure I put it in the chat, a sign up for the planning committee. Just let me get it real quick. Well, I'm gonna put
Charles, I think a few people are asking how much, what's the time commitment? There's a question in the chat about that.
Okay. Actually, can you answer that since you have more experience than I do?
So it's 2 years, 2-year term, and you can run again for another term, 2 years. But for the third time, you'll have to skip 2 years to come back, give everyone an opportunity to come in and join. And it's a commitment to participate in the meetings. The general meeting is to work with the staff, is attend training, and work collectively as a membership leader. And there's a lot of stuff. Come join us.
Roughly how many hours? Roughly how many hours a week or month? Just an estimate.
So we meet once a week on Friday, and we work towards developing, whether it's organizational goals or whether it's working towards the general meeting, the meeting that we're having today. We work with partners, we work with policy, everything that you're hearing right now. We work on that as needed, basically we work collectively as a team to just move the goal forward of the organization. The hours are anywhere, it could be anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours a week. When there is meeting to, the meeting the Saturday of every month, the second Saturday of every month, then we start off the meeting like on the second week, and then we meet once every week working towards that goal to prepare the presentation for the membership for you guys.
Thanks, Juan. I also wanted to say something as well. I'm Emily Marte. I'm also part of the planning committee. And Charles, you know how there was like a last slide that you never knew about because I just put it in.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. Thank you very much.
Do you mind putting it up just so that I could talk a little bit about?
Yes, I can put it up.
Yeah. So, even though sorry I didn't tell anyone about this, teamwork, but right now I'm doing it. I just thought about it a few minutes before. But as Juan said, and just re-emphasizing, the whole purpose of this planning committee is so that you could bring the community's perspective and like what you want to see in your community in these membership meetings that we have monthly. So these are just some pictures that I had taken, being that I know we kind of flew through the slides, but I was part of the communications committee, subcommittee of the planning committee. So I decided to do that because I already found myself taking pictures of everything that was going on in all of our meetings. So I figured I'm already part of it and I'm posting it on my Twitter and like putting it on my Instagram. So, you get to coordinate with a staff member and they actually they could teach you how to do the being part of that subcommittee and like get more involved, and you gain those skills through it. And you actually have that power to say, I wish I had better public speaking skills, for example, and then we would have a training on that. Or we had a training, for example, we had a training on grant writing. And that was really amazing. I never knew that so much work went into that. And we got to learn how to do that. And there were several grants that we were interested in writing for. But obviously with everything with the pandemic, everything, shifts around. But these are great opportunities for you to say, I think that as a person of this community, I want to learn this, that, and the other. So these are just some moments that we had because we helped choose the guests that come to our membership meetings. We help structure all these meetings and say, I think it would be great to have a panel, or I think it would be great if we had a PowerPoint, or if we had like some music at this point, you know, like, and then the picture that's on the bottom right corner, that's actually the last meeting that we were gonna have in person that got canceled. And it was really fun because we created all these amazing little things for people to take away, but then we had the meeting canceled. But it was a great way to just meet with people. So you put the time commitment is actually what you want to put in. Obviously, like you're committed to the planning committee and meeting every Friday, but you could put in as much time as you want. And me and Anthony and some of the other members, we would meet on our time off just so that we could plan for that one day that we have per month to have this membership meeting, and make it as big as you want. So I found it a really great experience, and I would definitely encourage others to get involved. It builds your leadership skills, and you get to hop around. Like you could be a chair for 3 months or more. You could be a secretary for 3 months or more. And I saw a question in the chat about a person that if they could get involved in the planning committee, but not be in it, in case you don't want to stick to it or be completely committed to it. And you could definitely do that. In one of the slides, we also said that we have like an ad hoc position, like if you just like want to help out. So yeah, you could definitely do that as well, if you want to get involved with whatever theme we have or topic that we have for the month. So yeah, that's my little part. So yeah, I encourage everyone to sign up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emily, for that. So moving forward, I just wanted to say that we're on schedule, and that everything is going well. And everyone, you can find the link inside the chat right now. So make sure if you're interested, sign up. We'll probably have elections within the next 2 membership meetings. So we need you guys to actually sign up, and I will be reaching out to you to talk about the next steps about how to be a part of the planning committee. Is it elected? We elect the planning committee members. So understand that you will be doing a presentation, and that you will be asking your peers to elect you the leader of this committee. All right. So moving forward, Chris, I think you're up next with the help of Sono with a slide of yours.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, folks. Good morning, everyone. Chris Dobbins, We Act Communications team here. I've got a great opportunity for you all. The planning committee isn't the only way to get involved in We Act. As you're about to hear, we've got an incredible policy agenda for 2021. If you were impressed by our work in 2020, stay tuned. 2021 is going to be even more amazing. But to make that happen, we need members, folks like you who are willing to, as Ron was talking about, attend our advocacy days, provide testimony, give testimonials, and talk to the news media about the issues we're working on. And we need members who have lived experience with those issues, because that's who, the elected officials, the reporters, they want to talk to you, our members, to get a better understanding of why this is a problem, why we need to write about it, or, pass a bill about it. So as you listen to our policy agenda, think about which of these issues impact you or your family. And if you've got a story to tell, and write January 14th down in your calendar. You see it on the slide, but the communications team from Columbia's Mailman School of Public Health, which just elected Peggy Shepard to their board of advisors. So they're going to be an even smarter institution now. But they've agreed to do a free spokesperson training for our members. And it's going to be on January 14th, 6 p.m. It's a Thursday. We'll do it via Zoom. But if you attend, you're going to learn how to, tell your story, that elevator pitch about, who you are and whatever particular issues of concern to you. you'll learn how to be more comfortable and confident telling that story, whether it's to a journalist, to an elected official, or really to anyone who listens. So please write that down, 6 p.m. Thursday, January 14th. I'm going to drop the link to sign up in the chat box. Just did that. You can go to weact.org/events for those of you who are on the phone. Everybody else can just click over, and it's open to all WEACT members, or you can just take it and we'll make you a member. We'll convince you. That said, I'm going to ad-lib before I hand it over to Sonal, because there's something that just came up. We had passed a bill on trichloroethylene. And we passed it earlier this year, but Governor Cuomo has yet to sign it. So we're wondering if you want to get involved in WEACT. Here's a great way. I'm going to post in the chat box a link where you can just click. This is advocacy that you can do at home, folks. You don't even have to put your pants on. Just click on this link, send a letter to Governor Cuomo, and tell him that you don't want cancer-causing trichloroethylene in your drinking water. You know, this will be the Christmas gift that New Yorkers are looking for. This is one last issue, one last win we're hoping to get in 2020. So click on the link, check it out. It's simple. You just fill out the form, send a letter, let the governor know that we want him to sign this bill that we worked so hard getting past the state legislator. And with that, I'll pass it over to Sonal.
Thanks, Chris. That was a perfect segue into more policy talk. Everyone do sign it. We definitely don't want nasty, harsh chemicals that are not made for our body to be in our body. And that is a lot of, that has to do with a lot of the work we do in New York State, is making sure certain things are not in our body. We have a lot of chemical related legislation. So I'm going to kind of jump into our presentation, basically telling you what's on our policy agenda for the city and the state in 2021. Before I do that, I'm just here as a public health oriented person to remind everyone that unfortunately the COVID pandemic is still here. It is still hurting our community, our family, our friends, our world, our country. Cases are rising in New York City, particularly uptown. The cases are much higher uptown than they are in other parts of Manhattan and other parts of the city. Washington Heights, Inwood, West Harlem all have higher percentages than most parts of the city. So please just stay careful, wear a mask, try to avoid indoor gatherings. It's the biggest source of spread. As much as you can, and hopefully vaccines, they are coming soon. We know that they got approved. So just, hang on until we can kind of move forward. So that's just a reminder for everyone that it's still very much here, and it's our cases are unfortunately rising again, and this is going to be a hard winter. So everyone just, do what you can to protect yourself and your family. And so just putting in the chat quickly, there's a lot of resources the city is giving out. We know it is not enough, and we know the federal government needs to give us some money. So that's obviously something that we're all, we want that to happen, and we hope that does happen soon. But the city is doing a lot of really great things to give resources to people. If you do get a positive test, the city sends you a kit with all of these different tools that you can use to take care of yourself. It includes like a temperature, a thermometer, it includes a machine to check your oxygen. It includes like face masks and Purell, and the city will do that. If you need a place to stay, if you're a family member that's positive and you're not, or the other way around, and you need to kind of someone needs to kind of stay away from other people, the city is offering free hotel rooms. The city also has contact tracing programs where people will call you and check in on you. There's a lot of things being offered. So I've just posted a link in the chat. If you click that link, you can click on Manhattan or wherever. Some of you are in Brooklyn and the Bronx, and you can click and find out all these different resources that are being offered. There's more than just COVID testing resources. There's food resources. There's lodging resources. There's, resources to help, with anything your kids might need for education. I know they were working on passing out iPads, and it wasn't a perfect program, but the city is trying to offer as much as they can at this point. So this is just a disclaimer about that, and to stay safe, everyone. There is rapid testing in New York City. I've done it a couple times. It's actually really easy. It's kind of uncomfortable for a moment, but it's it only lasts a moment, and you get your test back really quickly, and it's a pretty good process. So just a reminder there. And with that, I will jump into our more fun, in my opinion, policy agenda. So I'm presenting on our city and state policy. Corinne will come back again to present on what they're doing federally. So New York State, this is just the full list of the policy agenda items we have. There's the Energy Efficiency, Equity, and Jobs Act bill. That is something that WEACT is still pushing forward, and our very dear WEACT friend, Stephen, kind of created this and was working it for a long time, and we're still pushing that forward. And so I'm not going to kind of go through this whole list. I'm just going to pick a couple to really talk about because it just would take a little bit too long. But if anyone has any questions about any of these, you can feel free to drop it in the chat or send us an email. The policy agenda that I think Chris will be posting in the chat is available online, and has a description of all the different policy items, what they are, why we're working on it, what the solutions are going to be. So if any of these are particularly jumping out to you and I don't talk about them, you'll be able to see it on our website and get information on our website. Normally, if we were in person, we would do kind of some type of activity to talk about all of them, but virtually it's a little bit hard. So I'm going to talk about 4 at the state. The first is our climate education bills. Our lovely Taylor, who's going to be presenting on a project in a little bit, works a lot in education and making sure climate change education, environmental justice education is something that grows in our city and our state amongst our communities, and particularly for our youth that are going to carry this kind of work beyond all of us. So there are 2 bills at the state that we're working on that are putting in some climate change requirements for the state in K through 12 education. Right now, there's no real requirements. Some places teach about climate change, some don't. There's of course science education that sometimes can get some relation to it, but there is no requirements about climate change particularly. So this bill is working on that and setting some standards there. And there is an emphasis on making sure environmental justice is a big part of those education requirements. And that's part of why our lovely Taylor is doing that work and bringing that voice into the conversation about how to get these requirements set. The other part of these bills also are requiring that high schoolers get climate science education. So that's kind of an addition to just climate change, because climate change isn't just about the science, it's about how we're affected by it every day. It's about our health, it's about our housing, it's about our food, and climate science is kind of just one piece of that pie. So they're just making sure that high schoolers get that kind of education and really understand how our world is being affected by all of these changes. So that's a really exciting policy agenda item. The next is the Heap Expansion. So Heap, I know a lot of you know what that is. That is the Home Energy Assistance Program. Some of you might have received an AC from this program at the state. Some of you might get discounted heating bills in the wintertime from this program. It is a state government program you can sign up for if you're income qualified. We kind of did a lot of advertising around this program this summer to get people that free ACs. You can get an AC up to $800 of value in the summertime. We think that that's not enough to protect people from the summer heat. We think that this program could be used to install better types of heating systems, not just a window AC that I think we all know sometimes breaks down, sometimes it's kind of yucky and doesn't work very well, sometimes it's just really, really expensive to run. We want to kind of make this program install better systems to lower income folks, and cover more of people's summer electricity bills. Right now, it doesn't do that at all. So that's something we're working on in the state. The Nexus Beauty Inside Out, this is a great project that Lubna, who used to work with us, really ran last year and started, I believe, the year before that. And there is a federal component, but the state component really is focusing on the idea that there's a lot of toxic chemicals in beauty products that's used mostly by young women of color. That might be a lot of hair products, lipsticks, makeups, skin lightening products particularly are really bad for your skin and really bad for your health. It's all these nasty chemicals getting into your body. And they're specifically targeted towards women of color. And we are doing work to get those toxic products off the market, that there should be beauty products and any just like shampoo and conditioner that all genders use to get nasty chemicals out of them and only be able to, and have our population only be able to buy products that are healthier for us and better for our skin and better for our hair and better for our body. So one of the steps we're taking is we're working on creating a bill with some of our uptown legislators, particularly for this one is Assemblywoman Carmen de la Rosa, and I know Senator Jackson here is listening to this too and knows all about all of these different items. We want to ban mercury in skin lightening products. So this is just a step one. There's a specific chemical that's pretty bad for you, and we want to make sure that we take it out of our products. And the last one in the state is making sure that this big building emissions law that I mentioned before gets implemented correctly. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a typo in there. We want to make sure that it gets implemented correctly, and we're kind of on a lot of boards to advise on that. So in the city, these are all the different city items. There's a lot of them too, and I'm not going to go into all of them again, but again, they're on our website. There are descriptions there, and we're happy to answer any questions anyone has about them. And the Nycha Healthy Homes campaign, I'm actually not going to say much about it because Taylor is going to present on it in a few minutes. So you'll hear more about that. But one of our other big items is the Electric School Bus Coalition. We just joined that, and that's going to go into next year, and that's to find ways and find money and push our city to electrify our school buses, as I mentioned before. And then the last major one that I also kind of mentioned in the beginning, because this is kind of carrying over to 2021, but this is making sure that the big bill, Local Law 97, Climate Mobilization Act in the city, which is supposed to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. It's a big goal. We're trying to make sure that it happens correctly, it happens equitably. And Peggy's on advisory group on it. I'm advising on it. A lot of different organizations and partners on it are making sure that we do that correctly. And so that's continuing on to next year. And we are working on how do we expand these laws? How do we make sure more buildings get covered in these laws, and particularly do it in a way that protects our communities? So I'm going to stop there. I think I'm a little bit over time. If anyone has any questions about any of this, just put in the chat. Happy to answer your questions in the chat. And again, the link to all of further information and more details about everything is on our website. And my last and final plug is that if you like any of this work, any of this policy work, we talk a lot about that in our Climate Justice Working Group, which is another kind of free group for members of WEACT to participate in. And maybe anyone I know a lot of you are in the working group that are here, if you want to type in what you like about the working group and encourage other people to come, we'd love to have you. Our final meeting is actually next Wednesday evening, our final meeting for the year, and we're going to be doing some get to know you, some environmental justice trivia, some scavenger hunting. It's going to be a fun meeting. So anyone that wants to join, please join. I will link that calendar invitation in the chat as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Sono, for the wonderful presentation about our city and state policy. So moving forward to making sure that we cover everything that we plan to cover today, we're going to move over to Kareem. And Kareem, are you there?
I'm here. All right, I'll turn my camera on.
I'd like to hear that. So Kareem, we're going to move forward with the federal policy. and the second part so that we can look at what we're going to be doing in 2021.
Hold on, let me share my screen again.
Okay. There we go.
My screen?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna try to keep this brief.
Go into presentation mode or? Yeah, there you go.
Okay, cool. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna have a lot of stuff to do in 2021. And this is the team again. We're working hard for you guys in DC. So the reality of it is, with the election of the Biden-Harris administration, the landscape and the type of work we're going to do is going to be very different from what it's been in the last 4 years, where we've been very, I think, distant from federal agencies. I think that is going to change dramatically. I'll say, for instance, being as truthful as possible, we've only gone to the EPA maybe once, literally once, within the 2 years that I've been back at WEACT, and it was to testify against the methane rule. Now we will likely be, I think, welcomed back into the EPA and other agencies. And we've already had a lot of outreach, even in the transition period, on policy recommendations and ideas of how we'd like to see the EPA and other agencies, and even the executive branch, function as it relates to environmental justice and climate. So like I was mentioning, the EPA, we'll have a lot of work to do there. And actually the EPA is going to really have to rebuild itself. The Trump administration did a very systematic job of really letting go a lot of employees and really driving down morale of the employees that are there. The next administration will likely be the complete 180 of that, way more aggressive on climate, and there's a very strong commitment to environmental justice. HUD is another agency where we look to work with. Our work in DC is to amplify the needs of our membership base, and a number of us do look to HUD for issues around affordable housing and public housing that's there in the city. So we'll be looking forward to working with HUD, in addition to the Department of Energy, to support things like our Solar Uptown Now program, and and the Department of Health and Human Services, which I believe manages the LIHEAP program that a lot of folks see benefit in terms of assistance around monthly bills with utilities. So it's going to be a lot of work, and we're excited about it. It's comforting to at least talk with people who want to engage and want to empower communities. So we hope that this continues as we engage with the different federal agencies that impact your lives particularly. We've already made some recommendations to what we think is very vital and important for the next administrator to do. And word on the street, they're going to announce the likely person to head the EPA, if not this weekend, then early next week. We really see some value in the president really announcing a tour of EJ communities and showing strong solidarity with EJ in contrast to the past administration. There's some structural issues that are happening in the EPA that have been there way before the Trump administration that we've made recommendations around. And we would like just for the federal government to prioritize environmental justice through the reconvening of the inner working agency group of environmental justice. And also, even beyond the EPA, there's some research that shows that the other federal agencies have failed quite a bit to address environmental justice and even apply the executive order on environmental justice. So we'll be working hopefully to help rectify that to a great deal. We've even recommended just a bigger budget for the Environmental Justice Office, and that's something we'll be advocating for. We've made some recommendations also to the Department of Energy around nuclear waste reclassification. We have partners who have been impacted by nuclear in their state, and so we're just concerned about a rule that the Trump administration has issued. We'd like to see that rolled back to address how to manage toxic waste that's been abandoned in relation to nuclear waste sites. We also want to encourage all of the federal agencies to really implement more anti-racist policies and programs and prioritize communities to break down systemic racism that exists in a lot of these agencies, particularly since so many of them impact your lives, impact our lives. And we also would like to see more of the federal agencies have special advisors on environmental justice so that they can do a better job of incorporating EJ principles into their work. So in terms of legislation, in our policy agenda, we outlined these areas that are of great concern. And just for context, with well, at least in the last congressional year, we had a very aggressive House. And then on the Senate side, not enough members who valued climate change, valued environmental justice. And so there are a lot of bills that have been introduced last year that we will work to get reintroduced this year, including the Environmental Justice for All Act, including the Climate Equity Act, including the Environmental Justice Legacy Pollution Act. All of them we feel will be beneficial to communities. And again, a lot of our work reflects the needs and the concerns that exist for you all as members and the work that WEACT is doing at the city and state level. So we're still going to look to support bills that develop a strong and more diverse green workforce, again, to then support the Solar Uptown Now work that we do, and also like the Sun co-op that was started. Our Beauty Inside Out campaign will continue. We'll be working with Jan Schakowsky's office again to reintroduce this bill and hopefully get some more support for it to see it pass. It's been it's considered a marker bill, which usually kind of dictates a specific perspective, but we would like to eventually, hopefully in this Congress, get it passed. We're still doing our work around eliminating toxic threats for PFAS, and there are a number of bills, the PFAS Action Act of 2019, that we'll be working to support, as well as increasing investments in solar through the Solar Investments Tax Credit, which is a really essential tax credit that a lot of solar companies use to keep down the cost of purchasing solar panels and all of the other additional kinds of technical things that go into projects. And if we can keep projects low, the likelihood of having more solar projects available to folks that are like Charles and those running the co-op will increase. So we're supporting those types of legislation. We also expect there to be another big, a big energy bill, and also another bill around infrastructure. And so we're going to make sure that when those conversations start, we can inject equity and environmental justice concerns for people of color into that work as well. LIHEAP and weatherization enhancements, and those types of bills will also be a focus for us too. From the EJ Forum perspective, we are really excited to try our best to duplicate the work of EJ Forum member Nikki Sheets and other EJ leaders in New Jersey that passed the first of its kind cumulative impact law this year. And we have already begun the process of dividing up interested EJ Forum organizations to figure out how we can either help them introduce a cumulative impact bill in their state, or establish a EJ advisory board or commission in their state. What we did was we surveyed and did a power mapping we did some power mapping to figure out where people were organizationally with their elected officials and just what their capacity was to do this work. And these organizations around the country will be working with us. Group A, we hope to be working with them to introduce cumulative impact legislation within their state's legislative calendar. So that includes South Bronx Unite, which is right above us in Bronx, Energy Justice Network, which is a coalition of EJ organizations in Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania, Duwamish River Cleanup there in Washington, Opal, or Organizing People Activating Leaders there in Oregon. And we're also going to be supporting Group B, West Atlanta Watershed in Partnership for Southern Equity, to help them establish an EJ Advisory Commission for their state in Georgia. And then Group C, Wisconsin Green Muslims and COCO, the Coalition for Community Organizations, and Tejas will be working with them just to help increase their state's capacity and understanding of environmental justice issues. Texas is a really problematic state. They're very dependent on oil, and there's little to no type of zoning. And so, for instance, those communities don't have, I think, the ability right now, like Group A, to do anything around cumulative impacts. So we hope to be busy. Bailey has been really doing a good job of leading these groups and that work, and we look forward to supporting them. It'll be a busy year, but hopefully an exciting one if we can get past all of these challenges to the current election results. So if folks have any questions, discussion, feedback, please, I see some things in the chat, so I'm gonna turn my screen off to see what people are saying.
Anyone have a question or two?
Yeah, I had one. Is it okay to talk?
Yeah, why not, Louis?
Why not? I put this question into the chat. I am concerned about Northerners making phone calls into the South and whether we would not be looked at as carpetbaggers.
Well, that's a really good question. I will say, and I don't have a particular accent, so I don't know if this applies, but I called quite a bit into the South during the election cycle. People they'll ask where you're from, and you can just really be honest and say, I'm a New Yorker and I'm really concerned about your elections. And I'm not a carpetbagger, but I'm concerned and I want to encourage you to vote. You can just say that. People, it's in phone banking, it's been very conversational, and people like knowing that other people, at least the ones that I've interacted with, they like knowing that you care enough about them and to use your free time to just encourage them to get out and vote. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And you should be fine.
Do you start your conversation off by telling them where you're calling from and why you're calling?
No. If you are able to phone bank, they provide a script, and it literally loads up with the person's name, and it's just, hi, my name is, I'm calling on behalf of, I'd like to speak with this person. And if that person's there, at least in the systems that I've seen, then the next message is, we're just calling today to encourage you to go out and vote. Do you plan on voting? And then if they say yes or no, you would click whatever they respond to, and then another script comes up. So if you do want a phone bank, or if phone banking opportunities are made available, there's going to be a script, and you won't have to do anything like off the cuff.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move forward so that way we can have this great meeting and end on time so everyone can go do their holiday shopping by 12. And the person who is up next will be Yua. Yua, are you there? You're going to be talking about Out of Gas, one of our new initiatives and campaigns that we're going to be doing in 2021. Yua?
Hi, my name is Yua Vosper. I am the Environmental Policy and Advocacy Coordinator. Just a little tech tip I want to give you before I begin. If you go to the right-hand side, you will see a view button. If you want to view the presentation full screen, you will see the full screen option. You can always click on that. When you're ready to exit the presentation mode, it will say exit full screen. And that is my tech tip for the day.
Thank you, Yua.
You're welcome. So I am going to go to the presentation and put this down a bit. I did it again, that's fine. Oh, hold on 1 second, guys. I know what happens. Okay. Got my notes. Okay. So we have a very exciting new project that WEACT is working on. It is called Out of Gas and with Justice. The name may change, but the educational pilot aspect of it will not. So I'm going to explain to you what is Out of Gas. It's a collaboration of practice and policy professionals with the goal of limiting the use of gas in multifamily affordable housing, including public housing, in New York State through a very phased approach, ending in a full shutoff by 2040. Why buildings? Well, buildings can act as silent saboteurs. They produce so much pollution, it's sometimes more pollution than cars. So our goal is to remove this pollution in the state. But to do that, we need to change the heating and cooling systems in most buildings to electric-based, which would include heat pumps and upgraded appliances, such as induction stoves. So how will we do this, or why are we doing this? Well, there was a Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act called the CPLCPA, and it's the Climate Act. And this will transform the way we generate and use electricity. It's going to transform the way we heat our homes, the way we use transportation. 70% of New York City's air pollution comes from buildings. 1 billion. New Yorkers burn more than 1 billion gallons of heating oil every year, which accounts for nearly 14% of pollutants brought into our air. In fact, buildings produce more pollution than all cars and trucks in the city combined. What are we going to do with this pilot, our small research project? We're going to swap out gas stoves with induction stoves and install heat pumps. We're going to launch a 6-month research pilot or research program. We're going to do it in New York and Buffalo. And the reason we chose Buffalo, New York is due to an organization we work strongly with called Push Buffalo. It's also community-led, and their goals form around mobilizing residents to create strong neighborhoods within their communities with quality, affordable housing. We have participants. There'll be 20 in New York and 20 in Buffalo. And of the 20, 10 will be control and 10 will be experimental. So with the control group, you remove certain, their variable or their factors, their extraneous factors will basically remain the same, while the experimental will have different factors and different variables. So we're going to do this in multifamily affordable homes where we would prefer a child with asthma is present or a household member with a respiratory issue of some sort is present. The swap out. So we're going to move gas to induction. And why induction? Well, induction cooktops are electric since they don't use gas or any other flame to heat it. And that's what sets them apart from a regular electric cooktop, is the way they heat to cook the food. So did you know you can put your hand on an induction stovetop and it will not burn? Your hand will be fine. And this is great for children who also, they like to touch things. So they won't get burned. You don't have to worry about if your sauce comes out of the pan, it won't burn the cooktop. You can easily remove it. And you may be asking why. Well, the surface doesn't become hot. What happens is, and I'm gonna see if I can use my pointer. If not, let's see, pointer. No, I cannot. Okay, well, we're gonna go back to my notes. Sorry about that. Oh, my pointer came. Well, we're just gonna leave it right there. Okay, so what it does is this electrical supply converts into electricity into a magnetic field that is used for cooking. The induction cooktop cuts out the intermediary, cuts out the middleman, in the step of heating up the burner and then transferring the heat to the pot. So the heat goes directly to the pot. This is also, as I said, why the cooktop doesn't get hot when switched on, unless there's a pot or pan placed on it. So it won't get hot unless it has a pot or pan placed on the top. So the heat produced goes directly into the cookware. There is no direct heat. This is why an induction stovetop is safer. Even if you take the cookware off, the heat stops. So when you remove the cookware, the heat stops because the heat is going from the cooktop, as I said, directly to the pan. Only the below surface, which you'll see at the bottom with the electric supply and the power coil, that's the only thing that gets hot, and that's underneath the surface. So, gas stoves are a large source of toxic pollutants indoors. indoor air pollution is not really federally regulated. Therefore, individuals, particularly children with asthma, have breathing issues in the home because of the large amounts of indoor air pollution that gas stoves give off. African Americans and Hispanic children with asthma are the largest affected by indoor air pollution from gas stoves. The effects of this include wheezing, coughing, chest tightening, and even more severe issues such as diabetes, cancer, and reproductive issues. Low-income households are at greater risk of exposure to pollutants from gas stoves because many individuals use gas stoves as a source of heat. This causes elevated levels of hazardous pollutants over a long period of time. Low-income households often have malfunctioning, inefficient, broken heating systems, and it forces the residents to use ovens as space heaters for additional warmth. Induction or electric stoves do not emit high levels of pollutants and are safer to use. We're going to replace the gas stoves with electric, and it can dramatically decrease the indoor air pollution levels, not just in the kitchen, but in the overall home. And in many states, there are no real venting requirements for gas stoves in new buildings. Even in states where venting gas stoves is required, there are really no standards to ensure the venting is adequate or that it automatically turns on when pollution levels are safe. And a part of this pilot is that we're going to have sensor systems that will help measure that kind of ventilation. And that, as I said, it causes more issues such as, asthma, wheezing, coughing, especially with people with allergies. So as homes become more energy efficient, they also can reduce the amount of air pollution that is produced indoors. 50% of homes with gas stoves have an estimated 50 to 400% higher average indoor air pollutants than homes with electric stoves. 50 to 70%. During winter, homes are ventilating at its lowest because if it's bitter cold outside, we're not opening our windows. We want that heat to stay in. Therefore, we're not ventilating our homes as much as we used to. 55 to 70% of homes with gas stoves without ventilation may experience indoor air quality that will be illegal outdoors. Let me remove my pointer. I don't know why it's still there. Okay. Now, heat pumps. We're also going to be putting heat pumps as well as gas stoves, electric stoves, into the home, induction stoves. So heat pumps are another factor that will be going into this pilot program. So households will receive induction cooktops and heat pumps. And what are heat pumps? So one important thing to note is that heat pumps are electrically powered systems. They move air from one place to another. So the thing about heat pumps is they don't generate heat. They don't give off heat. They move heat from one place to another. So it's a similar technology to air conditioner units, but it works for heating as well as cooling. And each heat pump is made up of at least one copper tubing. It contains fluid and it carries the heat through the home. And as I said, it's the same process for heating and cooling. It circulates whatever air and it transforms it within the home. So the entire process transforms thermal energy into electrical energy. So the health benefits of heat pumps. Well, one, you can regulate temperature. Regulate temperature is vital to a healthy home. When the temperature drops below 59 degrees, it can invite in like a dampness, a damp cold, and that brings moisture and mildew. So some forms of gas heaters can create excess moisture in the home, in the air, and this leads to condensation, which is that thick layer, like sometimes when you feel sticky and gross. And the heat pumps, they also contain filters that you are able to clean, and it cleans the air and removes allergens and deodorizes the home. And they do that through a filtration system, and that removes the smallest amount of allergens and it kind of neutralizes them. So in some cases, heat pumps can act as a dehumidifier. Heat pumps could also lower costs. And we're looking at that to have an affordability aspect. But the key benefit of a heat pump is the ability to filter the air that you are heating or you're cooling. And this, again, is important for both asthma and allergy sufferers. Most heat pumps are fitted with advanced filtration systems. So overall, this is better for your home. So replacing gas boilers with heat pumps improves air quality. Residents can have more control of the temperature in their apartment. So you could be able to control your heat because it requires, it has a different metering system. And more households will have access to air conditioning, which is vital in the summertime and also a health necessity. With the educational pilot, we will be using that to expand into a larger campaign. The larger campaign is 2 years with potential to go long-term. And through this campaign, we will educate, inform, persuade, and promote. We're gonna discuss removing indoor air pollutants from buildings, transitioning from natural gas utilities. We're working on messaging right now, doing our public-facing campaigns, and we're all doing this with working groups of environmental justice advocates, organizations. And the educational pilot will influence policy and provide an example of how upgrading appliances and installing heat pumps can look across New York State. And currently, our phase right now, we are working on recruiting households and landlords in the New York City area. We also have a property we're looking at within Harlem. So we're very excited about that and other agencies as well. So we are moving forward and we're moving forward at a steady pace. But how can you be involved? Well, I'm going to tell you. As Chris was saying earlier in our program, we invite members to be spokespeople. We want you to talk to the media. As we act, we want you to make meaningful sound. We want you to feel like you play a vital part in our work, and you are a vital part of our work. So we want you to act as spokespeople when talking to media. We want you to join us for advocacy days when we meet with elected officials. And if you are willing, we can provide video testimonies and we can use them. We can circulate this with our website, newsletters, and social media. At the bottom, I put my contact information, and I hope I have made, just a little bit over, but still kind of on time. And I'm gonna stop sharing and invite any questions.
Yeah, a couple of questions, that'll be good. And then we're gonna move over to our final presentation from Taylor. So anyone has any questions real quick?
Yes, I have a question. Who's gonna, it's a great idea. I like the idea, heat transfer. But how's that, and how does that look in terms of the transfer costs?
Okay, so thank you for that question. It's a good question. This cost is on different levels. First, the landlord cost of installing the equipment. Many landlords will most likely have to make adjustments to the wiring or piping, and then there's a cost to the residents. Will the residents incur an additional cost? And we are investigating all of those options at the moment. We are looking on how to make it a just transition for everyone involved. We don't want the residents to incur any additional costs. So we're looking at how would that look right now. We're looking at programs to ensure that this is a benefit, not a burden once it's put into the home.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes. Can that be combined with solar?
I don't see why I couldn't. So we are also looking into that as well. All aspects. I don't see how it could, especially with the heat pump, since it uses outdoor air and the sun is a big component to, heat heat. So I do see combinations with solar.
I heard something about solar electric with heat pump, that it's more suited to rural areas in the city, though. I wonder.
There's two types of heat pumps. There's air source and ground. So I think with ground heat pumps, it would be more residential, but with air source, it would benefit anywhere. Some buildings do have air source heat pumps in New York City. I live in Stuyvesant Town, and one of the buildings has a heat pump I noticed the other day. So air source heat pumps, I think, would be better suited for the city.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to move on to our final presentation so that we can get out here on time.
Can I ask a question?
Huh?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I actually want to move on. If you can put it in the chat, that'll be good.
I did.
I think you did.
Yes,
well,
I
then
did.
we can answer it because I just want to make sure we end on time. We just have one final presentation, if you don't mind, and then we can. She will answer it. Is it a question about air pumps and heat sources?
It's a question on the presentation. I just heard about switching over and stuff like that.
If you have that question, we'll answer it in the chat. I just want to get, and then after that,
I see it. I'll answer it.
Come back. All right. Thank you very much. All right. You'll answer that question. Taylor, you have the last presentation. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good. So
right.
You're on, Taylor.
Folks can see this, yeah?
Yep.
Great. All right, so thanks so much for having me. My name is Taylor Morton. I'm the Director of Environmental Health and Education at WEACT to talk a little bit about our Healthy Homes work, our Healthy Homes campaign, and I'll try to keep it as full as I can and as brief as I can. So getting into some of this, what is a healthy home, and really thinking about the work that we're doing around healthy homes. Not only thinking about indoor health, but any other aspect of our indoor environment and community that is centered around making sure that the occupants of the homes, whether you rent, whether you're in public housing or private housing, or you own or anything like that, that you live in a place that is conducive to good health to you. And I think that's something to sort of keep in mind. And I know in the past, we've talked a lot about healthy homes, especially as it relates to lead, mold, and pests specifically. But the work that we're doing around healthy homes really extends to a lot of other topics as we are working with Nycha residents specifically around our healthy homes work. And really thinking about housing as a health determinant, right? So all of these aspects that I mentioned before, so exposure to lead and pests and mold and all of those other things, as well as thinking about sort of larger operations of whether or not your elevator works, whether or not you have heat, as we've just heard about, all of these things, and thinking about how they contribute to our health. You know, we've heard a lot about how COVID-19 has impacted us and how pre-existing conditions have impacted us as a community. And a big part of this work in thinking about healthy homes is the source of those pre-existing conditions and what it means for us to really advocate for better health in our homes and our communities. So the Healthy Homes Working Group has been around for a while, and it's specifically currently working on issues in public housing around healthy homes. And for the past 2 or 3 years has been specific to public housing residents, but it's a space for members to come together and identify some of the shared struggles and discuss potential solutions and different ways that we can advocate for getting these issues fixed and bettering the health of ourselves and our communities. The goal of the Healthy Homes campaign is a campaign that we've been working on all of 2020 and will continue into 2021 is really working around the mayoral election that's going to be happening next year and understanding the vital role that the mayor plays in just making public housing decisions. And there are a lot of state decisions as well being made at this moment of the work that we're focusing on specific to the city level. But really wanting to make sure that while we are advocating and building a platform around public housing issues and environmental health, that we're also working on the voter engagement side to make sure that folks are registered to vote and have the most information about all of these candidates on environmental health and public health and these topics. And I'll talk a little bit more in a moment, but about that work and what we're doing in the next year. That's sort of a broad overview of our Healthy Homes campaign that I'll go into depth about. 2020, we have a really great cohort of folks who we've been working with all year, who've been folded into the work as we've gone through the year. We've been able to hold a lot of trainings around some of these different topics, and thinking that this cohort of folks who have joined our work and who have committed to this election and thinking about who's going to who are going to be the best candidates and issues that we care about and all these sorts of things. We've been working on training in this year specifically around civics and specifically around the legislative process, particularly in both the city and the state, and having an opportunity to learn a bit more about environmental health and public health at large. We've had visits from some guest speakers, which I'll speak about as well, just to make sure that the decisions that we make around the platform are going to be the most informed decisions that we can choose in the moment. And this work really grew out of the Dyckman Village's work around healthy homes that happened in 2018 and parts of 2019. And we were able to take the list of recommendations from the Dyckman Village's report and choose two topics that the group cared about. And those two topics are safety and security and operations. So really focusing in on environmental health issues or ways that these two topics will impact the health of residents and have impacted the health of residents, really rallying around those topics for the next year. We had a really wonderful retreat and with myself and Christopher and Charles, who are integral parts of this team on a Saturday in November, where we had 4 or 5 hours where we met as a group and really worked on our policy agenda. And our policy agenda will be revealed in January. There are currently about 23 or 24 demands that we've been working on. So we'll continue working at the end of this year and into the beginning of next year to finish up that agenda, and we'll have an opportunity to share that and really start to advocate on that work. Some of the guest speakers that we've had, just wanted to mention as well, we had Ray Lopez as well as Assemblyman Al Taylor come in and talk a little bit about some of the changes in public housing, as well as a couple of environmental health professionals. We had Dr. Hernandez with Columbia University, some folks from the Manhattan Swap Committee, and some other public housing advocates as well. And we expect to have more of those guest speakers in the future as we continue to do the work, as well as hearing from mayoral candidates as we dive deeper into this campaign and this work. And so looking down the road, we had a really great year and have gotten into this great position with our agenda. And what we're looking forward to, continuing that voter education as the needs grow for us to advocate stronger around this campaign. We really want to make sure that we're prepared to do that, so that voter education will continue to be a big part of this. We're going to collaborate more with community-based organizations, those who are specifically working in housing and environmental justice as well, to make sure that we are using all of our relationships in this campaign work. And of course, meeting with elected officials at various levels, engaging with mayoral candidates at events and hosting many events that will uplift our campaign and have some really hearty discussions about the changes that we want to see in public housing in the next year, and the changes that we want to see in the next mayor who's coming into the city. So that's sort of an overview of our Healthy Homes work, our Healthy Homes campaign. If you're interested in joining us, we would love to have you. Right now, the group is limited to folks who are public housing residents, although we expect that access for folks who aren't residents and being engaged with this campaign will change in the year 2021. So definitely stay tuned for that. I can drop my email in the chat if you're interested, or of course, reach out to Charles, our director of organizing, to join as well. Charles has been a really critical part of this work and you know, being engaged with members and keeping an eye on the changes that are happening in public housing. So he has a large wealth of information. So, you know, you can reach out to either of us with questions.
Okay. Thank you, Taylor, and I appreciate you. That really concludes the end of our meeting. I know that there are some questions out there. All the information has been given to you by the WEAC staff, and I'd like to make sure we shout out everybody who did presentations. Let's give them a round of applause, a clap, a shout out, and all those good things. They really did a wonderful job in making sure that with the limited amount of time that we have, that they gave you the most information possible. Shout out to the planning committee team who really did a nice presentation and presenting all the information necessary to understand what it takes to be a planning committee member. And thank you very much for that. And then also to Chuck Burke, who gave us a moment of time to smile and laugh about some things that happen in the world. And thank you very much, Chuck Burke. So in saying that, I will stay on for another 10 to 15 minutes if anybody has any questions for our staff that they're able to answer. So if you have a question that you may want to ask, do so now while the staff is still available. And you can unmute yourself. The meeting is kind of unofficially over.
Good afternoon. I'm a grad student from Buffalo. I go to the University of Buffalo, so it's cool that you mentioned my side of the state. I'm wondering if you guys have looked into any policy regarding landfill recapture. And I'm also wondering with like housing in New York City, if you guys have looked into like redlining. Redlining is a big issue in Buffalo as well, and we're seeing that marginalized communities are disproportionately placed near hazardous waste sites and landfills, and I was wondering how that particularly affects New York City and the metropolitan area.
Anyone want to take that question on?
Yeah, thanks, Hannah, for your question. On the first piece, I think I put a little bit of an explanation in the chat, but we're not actively working on waste-related policies right now. We have in the past, but actively we are not at the moment. So we're not working on that project, but I know other groups have mentioned that, and I think folks are interested in studying the feasibility of it, but we don't actively work on it. And in terms of the second piece, definitely Harlem, a lot of parts of Northern Manhattan are formerly red zoned areas. A lot of research has found that, or really recent research this past summer actually found that the formerly redlined areas are much hotter. They deal with extreme heat at least 5 degrees. I think they're at least on average 5 degrees warmer due to a lot of different things like lack of kind of infrastructure resources or, the housing makeup. There's a lot of that. And then there's also a lot of research that is connected redlining to air pollution. So yes, we do use that a lot. We use that research a lot as kind of a way to think about how to reinvest in communities that have been formerly redlined. So definitely.
Thank you, Sono. Anybody has another question that they may want to get answered? While we have a couple more minutes, we'll go into about 12:20. So if you have another question, please.
I would like to ask a question in regards to baby wipes. So baby wipes right now are making residential and businesses sewage back up. So are you guys I mean, I know you saw what I saw. Let's just move on to the question. You guys have anything on your platform or anything like that about banning baby wipes here in the state of New York? Because I have an adjacent basement, and because of baby wipes, I have to go down there every night and pull the baby wipes out of the pipes. And not too long ago, I saw something where New York City had the same problem, but on a bigger scale. So I was like, wow, if New York City is going through that, then they have to be doing something, because I'm a small business, and you know, baby wipes are no good. It doesn't dissipate. It doesn't break up.
Well, they, from my understanding, and maybe it's more of an educational piece, that baby wipes should go into the trash can and not in the toilet. So it may not be something that has to deal with, you know, putting in the toilet, but it may have to be educational campaign of how to dispose of baby wipes. So we'll look at that. And does anyone want to tag along?
I have more of a suggestion, Charles.
Okay.
Going forward next year, some time ago, I had suggested that we as an organization also look into the arts community and address and advocate against some of the materials that we use. I think that's a big issue that we need to address. Now, there are certain art supplies I won't even use because of the smell and the chemicals. So hopefully, you know, going forward in 2021, that's something that we can continue to talk about and see how we can bring more attention to how important it is. You know, artists are getting lung cancer, and they're using materials, and they're getting bacteria on their fingers, you know. So it's crucial too that we, I think, talk about it.
Okay, and we should do so. Okay, so we'll put that on different materials that are happening. All right. Anybody else?
Charles, I'll say one thing just quickly to Gwen. I mean, it's hard to kind of target one specific product at a time for, you know, removing chemicals and removing toxins from it. And that's why we're kind of working on the state level legislation of like ban PFAS completely in products. And, you know, we're trying to do more kind of overarching things that ideally do affect and help take toxins out of specific products, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, and maybe going forward, that we can see what are some of the supplies that we do use in the arts community, like fixative is a big thing I have to use because I use charcoal, but I try to get low odor, you know, go outside, that type of thing, but it still goes into the air. So yeah, I can look into some of the chemicals that we use and give a list.
That'll be
something we could look at.
That'd be fantastic. Moving forward, anybody else have any vital questions they may want to ask at this moment in time?
Does We Act work with any organizations in Buffalo? I know I'm like 6 hours away, but yeah, I want to.
Well, Push Buffalo.
Okay.
That's part of our Out of Gas project. We'll be partnering with them and changing out gas stoves to electric stoves. So yes, we'll be working with Push Buffalo. So if you want to contact me, my email is at charles@weact.org, and we can talk more about how you can get involved with Push Buffalo if you're interested.
Also, Energy Democracy Alliance is statewide, and they do more energy work with like rate cases and moratoriums, but it's a statewide organization for New York.
Okay. Any more questions?
Can I throw out something a little bit different? Hi, everyone. This is David. I'm your neighborhood friendly bike fanatic. And along with electric buses, a great way to get around town, if you can, is on bicycle. I'm 64, it's keeping me young. I had a recent mishap involving a couple of SUVs, but I survived it. I'm a miracle. So I just want to say, you know, we want our kids to inherit a city where it's safe to bicycle, and so do those kids' parents. And it's eco-friendly. It's, you know, it's all the things that it's you know, I won't even, you know, bore you with what's obvious, but it's just a fantastic thing to do. I also want to ask, totally unrelated, some folks are asking me about the phone banking organization I've been working with, and can I announce that like, is it okay with WEAC's policy if I just
announce? Well, I'm going to ask you a question, but what kind of, is it a phone banking for the state or?
Yeah, it's for the state of Georgia. It's for our 2 Democratic candidates. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't announce candidates, but you can definitely announce the phone banking so that people can actually, if they want to volunteer to do that, that'll be fine.
Yeah, it's great. I totally encourage it. Well, the organization you've probably heard of as well, Swing Left. They've got a good thing going. It's a virtual phone banking system. And just, it's actually fun. I used to live in Georgia actually many years ago. And I kind of hear myself putting on this drawl all over again. I feel like such a fake, but nobody has reacted to me hostilely because of my, whatever accent I have, Midwestern, I don't know what it is, but give it a try. And it's, you'll get some good responses in many cases. So it's fun. Stressful, a little stress, a lot of fun.
All right, that's cool. Anybody else have any more questions? We're coming to the closing of our meeting.
Can we comment? This is Diane.
Yeah, you can. This is the time to do it.
Okay, this was regarding the general idea of, incurring additional electric costs for small property owners. I think they got to add on the idea that maybe we should long-term be advocating that particularly Con Edison be taken over by the state. Their costs are, I think, high to begin with now. They're surely not going to get low with any additional burden, on people. I think we need to add that to the equation.
All right, you got that, you?
Well, we are working with organizations such as the Energy Democracy Alliance. We do work with things like that. So we work with certain bills and legislation to take the energy back into our own hands, take that ratepayer cost and help mitigate that. So we do work with that with another organization.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I'll add, Diane, to what you have said, there is, there's this growing campaign around public power. WEACT hasn't taken any official stance on that campaign, but we do know a lot of people are talking about it. It's a growing discussion of when does power, should it stay privatized and when should it be in the hands of the government. So it's definitely a growing discussion that we'll, continue to hear more about and see what's possible.
So Nell, do you want to put out a shout out for the Climate Justice Working Group and where people can register to participate?
I appreciate it, Louis. I did shout out. Did folks see my links and my?
But you can do it again. It won't hurt us. So stick that in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, so we have our Climate Justice Working Group. We meet once a month and talk climate justice. We can get into specifics of specific policies, specific bills, or we just talk about it generally. It kind of depends on what's on the docket. And it's really an open meeting for anyone. Oftentimes we'll bring some type of kind of educational component about something that's going on, whether that be, we talked about the big climate laws a lot recently. We're working a lot on, how do we rethink cooling centers, all this work related to climate justice specifically, which is, the idea that we're really addressing climate change in a way that benefits the people that are burdened the most by climate change, that are hit first and worst. And it's open to anyone. So anyone that's interested in even just stopping by and attending one meeting and seeing what you think. This Wednesday meeting is actually a great one because we're going to do a little bit more kind of fun, get to know you end of the year discussion. So it'll be a good way to kind of be introduced to the meeting. And Chris, thank you. Sent a link to RSVP. It's free to join and it'll be in the evening. So after generally everyone's workday.
Thank you.
All right. Couple more questions. We have a couple more minutes. If not, then we can, we don't
Charles, I have one.
David Davenport. Yes. Hi, David. How you doing?
I'm well, Charles. Thanks for harassing me to remind me of the meeting this morning. I've learned a tremendous amount. The group is doing great work. I have a question about the upcoming mayoral election, and the number of candidates getting into the field seems to grow and grow and grow. Does WEACT have kind of litmus test issues that they're preparing to send to the different campaigns?
Does WEACT have litmus test issues? Can you clarify that a little bit more? I just want to make sure I answer the question correctly.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've worked with a couple of administrations to get funding for different kinds of energy retrofit projects. And under the current administration, there was a mayor's office of sustainability, and a number of reports have been put out by task forces, one of which I participated on. So there's been a commitment towards greening and sustainability in the city for the past 2 administrations. I'm wondering if the work that's been achieved has been satisfactory, and if there are things that WEACT wants to see the next administration double down on or do differently.
Now, okay, that's a good question. Now I understand. Peggy, you want to answer that question, or you want me to do it? I see you leaning forward.
Sure, I'll answer that question. So WEACT has started a C4 political organization called WEACT for Change, so that we can do more overtly political work, endorse candidates, endorse particular pieces of legislation. So we will be developing a public housing agenda with public housing residents. We've been doing that over the past 6 months, and that will be a very key litmus test for candidates who we would like the community support. We will also obviously have a range of environmental issues that we will be not only briefing candidates on, and we've always made that service available over the past years to candidates who would like that. But in addition to briefing candidates on a sustainable environmental agenda, we will be developing a voter's guide that will be based on some of the key environmental issues that we think candidates should be supporting.
Thank you, Peggy. That's why we do it here. Anybody else have any more questions? David, I got to put solar on your building, so don't forget that we got to talk. All right. Anything else? Any burning desires? Everybody's mind is clear. And go off and do your Saturday shopping and celebrate your holiday. And we will see you. Happy Hanukkah. Be safe. Make sure you wear your mask, and we'll be seeing you in the new year, if not before then. Okay, everybody.
Happy and healthy.
That's right. Come back healthy.
Have a great holiday, everybody.
Great holiday.
Thanks for all your work, you guys.
Stay on real quickly.
Ride your bike. Ride your bike.
Have a good holiday, everybody. Great job, Steph.